Hello, this is Christine McGowan. The date is January 26th, 2023, and this is for my genetics class. So after reading the article about transgenic insects, there's a lot of information that I think is incredibly important and pertinent to today. So to summarize the article, basically they were talking about how currently in effect there are some GM products that are being used in agriculture and how these products are hotly contested. So GM is definitely something that is not really understood in the general public, and so people automatically say no to it. But the cost effectiveness of using these products in the agricultural world to stop the influence of pests can't be underestimated. So they described, for instance, there were some insects that cost, just one insect that cost upwards of $4 to $5 billion a year in damage, either by controlling it or lost yield due to the lost crop yield. So it's important that we take this into consideration when working to find a solution. And so they talked about not just, so there are already crops that use that have the Bt toxin in them that basically work to, when the plant feeds on them, it can either kill the insect, and that's currently what's being used right now. When they do that, they have to have a separate spot, like a refuge for the plants that do not express the Bt toxin, so that the pests do not develop a resistance to the Bt toxin, which would be extremely harmful to the crop yield itself and then problematic in terms of cost. So they discussed basically taking these pests and changing them so that they are able to basically express in males that if they were heterozygous for a certain trait, that they would pass on their trait to females, and if a female got 2 copies of it, it would be lethal, to the point that they would not be able to either have offspring, or even if they were, that the eggs would not be viable because there would be problems with the germ lines. This is really important because that, working in conjunction with the Bt crops, would eliminate the need for the refuges, and also be more effective at stopping resistance, because currently the Bt producing plants only, and the refuge only work to slow resistance. It doesn't stop resistance. Eventually there will be a resistance to it. And so by using these methods on top of each other and comparing it with cost analysis and talking about geology and developmental biology and ecology and basically how it affects the general population, they've studied how using them together could slow or reverse the effects of resistance to the drug. I think it's super important because they also talk about how they've used it on mosquitoes and disease-causing mosquitoes, because ultimately humans are very self-centered and they care about what's happening to them, and so crops don't affect them as much as they do. I don't think they do. But when you talk about a mosquito that carries things like dengue fever or Zika or Ebola, using these methods in order to change how the mosquitoes are expressing certain genes, whether or not they reach maturity in order to have offspring, or stopping the ability to be affected by pathogens. All of these are things that they can use. One of the ways that they said they were looking into it was through CRISPR technology, which is incredibly exciting and important for all realms of science. But it's definitely something to consider, that using it is, if it's cost effective, and all of the restrictions and things that need to be put into place before CRISPR starts being used across the board, because there's a lot of ramifications that could happen if we just start using that technology without putting some really strong structures in place to prevent its use being used negatively. It is interesting to see how well they've done with this and how much they've done, being that this review was posted in 2018 and a lot of the resources they used were from like 2016. So it will be interesting to see where they are with their studies and how it's being used in the ecological world now. Thank you.